Mandalorian finale Friday. We are here today, and I'm super excited to be joined by my older, bigger sister, Helen von Landstein, today from the Clueless Fangirl. We're going to discuss episode 8 of The Mandalorian Redemption. Helen, what's going on?
Good. I just watched it this morning. I think this is the first time I saw it before you,
Yeah.
right? Because I had to catch up on 7 and 8. I binge watched 7 and 8, and I loved it. And I really liked it because to watch it neck or neck, to watch it together, because for me it was like a episode that belonged. It was like one episode that was cut in half.
Yeah, because
So,
before the stream, we talked about how we felt like episode 7 and 8 were kind of one episode split in two, which is totally fine. But it is really funny that you did watch it before me, because I woke up at about, I usually get up at about 6 a.m. and you were up before me. I slept in a couple extra hours today, and you watched it before me. I'm usually like waiting a couple days because you got work and stuff, and you watched it before me, and you're like, "Oh my god, the ending!" I'm like, "Shut up, don't tell me."
Yeah, normally you spoil me, and I hate
well,
that. You're
the one who's
blah 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 died, and I'm like,
what? Well, you're usually, oh my god, this is such a lie. She always asks me what the spoilers are, and I'm like, "Are you sure?" And then I tell her, and then she's like, "Oh my god, I gotta go see it." So that's a lie. But everyone, welcome. Happy Friday. Happy holidays. Whether you're celebrating or not, I hope all of you had a Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. If you're here today with us on a Friday, thank you very much for joining us. This is going to be a really fun one. As we said, we both really enjoyed this episode. Let's just dive right into it, Helen. We're going to talk about episode 7 too, I think, because episode 7 was really good, and it had a lot of points that, I mean, we ended on the cliffhanger last week, but I think this was the best episode of the season, right? This was just actually, I'll go on record and saying this is one of one of my favorite things I've ever seen in Star Wars. It was that good. I think episode 8 of The Mandalorian was 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I never hate stuff, but for me it was a 10 out of 10, and I thought that about 9.5 out of 10 of the third one. You know, when the Mandalorians came in for the rescue, I think that was the third one, and it was also Deborah Chow, wasn't it? I think so.
This one was Taika Waititi.
Yeah, Deborah was 7, right?
7 and 3, I think.
Correct. So yeah, maybe
Rick Famuyiwa was number
6.
2. It's 2 and 6, yeah.
Yeah, 6 was epic. Like, I loved 6. I think we talked about it. I do not really remember, but it's a while ago. But 6 was epic with the lighting and with the atmosphere and with everything. It reminded me of like a horror movie in space.
Alien is a big, yeah.
Yeah, or not even Alien. There's this other one of the most, Event Horizon. I don't know if you know that movie. I love it. It's so scary and so good. And yeah, it reminded me of that, like the atmosphere and everything. It was epic. So 7, yeah, let's discuss 7. So it started basically, if I may started basically with Zabrak fighting Cara Dune. And how epic is that? Because, you know, I love Darth Maul, and it's his, for everybody who doesn't know, it's Maul's race. He wasn't as colorful as Maul was, but then we know, you know, the Night Sisters did that, and he became a Sith, blah blah blah, or Sith apprentice, and that's why he looked obviously a bit different. But yeah, he was a Zabrak, you know, with the little horns on the head, and Cara like beat him, which was so epic and so cool. And then he later gave her the money, and she was like, "Yeah, come back."
It was really nice to see, because, you know, a lot of people have criticized Gina Carano's acting. Obviously, she's very talented as a mixed martial artist, and I was actually really impressed with her acting, especially over the past 2 episodes. We get to see her a little bit earlier in the season, but I think she really carved out a role for herself in the future. Obviously, when episode 8 ends, she's there with Grief Karga on Navarro, and she says she has some of her own stuff to handle. So that was really cool. I did like her role in, I love the relationship that the Mandalorian has with her. I'm like, you know, there is a bit more than a friend vibe in episode 8, I think, because she doesn't want to leave him. But it is nice to see him have a female ally in his corner. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the end, they left. Let's not talk about the end now. But in the end, if you mention this, it was not that camaraderie thing that it was before in the episodes. Maybe it was a bit more. And at the end, she even liked Baby Yoda, and it was like, you know, that they're the parents now, kind of. Obviously, it's only him who was like, oh, you're his father now. But she, you know, she gave that vibe as well, at least a little bit. So let's see what happens in season 2.
Everybody except those stormtroopers like Baby Yoda.
Oh my god, that was cruel.
I know, right? What? Okay, so Steve Love, who's a great comedian, he goes to all the different Con of Thrones. He's a Canadian comedian, super funny guy. He posted on Facebook, and he was like, "Man, the first 5 minutes of episode 8 were just like could they have done a funnier scene? Really, like the comedy's been great in The Mandalorian, but just doing that, just focusing on how bad of shots stormtroopers are.
Stormtroopers, yeah. I even have a shirt saying, I hit aim better than stormtroopers or something like that. That's like a running joke since forever.
It's just so funny because they're looking at the gun and he's like checking if it's the gun, and he's like it's not the gun, you idiot.
Yeah.
And then of course we have some epic stuff later, which we'll talk about with IG-11. We don't want to skip to that yet. Yeah, episode 7 had some really cool moments. Obviously, at the end we had the very, very sad moment. We both discussed the death of Quill. We were both hoping that he might survive somehow, but we figured that for the last 2 episodes, and that's part of the reason why I think they did the cliffhanger in episode 7, is to make everything that they did have meaning, right? Because if we're looking at great TV shows and great stories, you have characters that have to make sacrifices, and Quill, who had already had a pretty difficult life, made his made kind of his own hero's journey. He did something.
Yeah, and he died. You know, he died. I think his death was kind of cool because he died peaceful. He died on his land. He said before to the Mandalorian, he said, you know, I paid my clan's death to the Empire, and this is why he was not a real slave, but it was obviously like underpaid work he did for the Empire. And so then he paid the debts, and then he had his own land, and he died. If he would have died there or under the Empire, that would be different. You know, it was a good death, as you would say in The Mandalorian. But let's go back to Quill for a little bit before we forgot that, because what I found super interesting, that was the montage with the droid with IG-11, who's now a nanny with a nanny droid.
The nurse droid.
The nurse droid, exactly. And I really love that teaching montage and what Quill said about him, because we know the Mandalorian, well, hates droids. Hate is a very strong word, but he really hates droids, and we saw that throughout all the other 6 episodes. And then Quill, you know, said, droids are not bad or evil, because the Mandalorian, he didn't really believe that everything was fully erased, because obviously his prime target was to kill Baby Yoda. And then Quill said a really cool thing, and he said, droids are bad or evil. They are kind of what you want them to be, or what you make them to be. I don't know the exact words, but that was the essence of that. And that for me is a bit foreshadowing what this whole Baby Yoda plot is about, because Baby Yoda is so strong, he's so overpowered, you know, and there's not much left, because there are not many Jedis left in the galaxy with that kind of power, and everybody wants to use Baby Yoda, you know, like Moff Gideon, for whatever purpose he wants to use him, we still don't know, but he wants to use him. So Baby Yoda is the Force, and it's not good and not evil. He has the Force, and whoever has him can use him in his way. And I think that's a bit foreshadowing the Baby Yoda plot, what might happen. That I felt that.
It was really cool. Let's skip a little bit forward. Like I said, we're speaking about both 7 and 8 here. But one thing that I really love, I mean, obviously Quill reprogrammed IG-11. Also, for those of you that don't know, the director of this episode, Taika Waititi, also voiced IG-11, and you can kind of tell there's a bit of a Australian hint
Yeah.
tinge to it. But what I really loved is the first of all, the joke that he made after we got the reveal, the helmet, the Mandalorian taking off his helmet, and then the droid actually healing him with the spray. He's like, I made that to make you like, more calm. So I thought that was really funny, and like the comedy was so well timed. In the episode. And then later on, of course, when they are trapped in that the lava river, also he's like, I sense sadness in your voice. I was never alive. But it goes back to kind of what you were saying. Like, it's like he obviously the spirit of Quill was still in the droid. They had that friendship, and I think Quill obviously made these enhancements to the droids just in case something like that might happen in the future. So I think that Quill was a huge reason why, even though he died in the last episode, that they were able to get out of this situation at all because of IG-11. He was the one who reprogrammed him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Quill, let's take a moment of silence for Quill. 5 seconds.
Rip. I saw, I love all the Funkos, and I ordered the Quill. Quill you could order already. You could order Quill and I think the Mandalorian and something, and IG-11, and all the others you couldn't. So no Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda comes out like way later, does it not? Like way later next year. I can't remember exactly, but
yeah, because they had to keep everything secret, blah blah. So all good. But
in our very first podcast too, if you go back and watch our Mandalorian episode 1 podcast, I said he's coming back. I made that prediction. I was like, there's no way we don't get. And then we had him appear in episode 7. I'm like, there's no way, because Taika Waititi is directing episode 8, and I said he's coming back.
Yeah,
in the season. So he came back, and I honestly think that he was the MVP of episode 8. Like, no,
he was. And listen again, he's a droid. It is so many times mentioned, I'm not human. When he took his helmet off, I can do it because I'm not human. He said it then in the end again, I'm not human. But still, I mean, we were so sad. Even like you said, the Mando was sad about his death. So that's a really cool, kind of thing they try to tell here, and Filoni always tried to tell in Rebels and Clone Wars, because there are some episodes where they're literally 90% of the time it's just about the droids, about C-3PO and R2-D2 and other droids, and it's really cool actually, and you're not bored or anything. So it's cool that they're kind of humanized.
Well, one of the things that George Lucas did with the original films is he actually took a lot of influence from old westerns, but specifically like samurai films, Kurosawa films. And what he did was he actually made C-3PO and R2-D2 into these POV characters, where we got to kind of sense and feel what they felt despite being droids. And I think that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, we were talking about this before the podcast. Wow. We like the stuff that happened at the end of the episode, where I see everybody talking about that in the chat. That's going to be a huge discussion point. We're definitely going to talk about the Darksaber after, but we're saving that for last, because that's going to be the thing that we probably geek about out of it, because we both Star Wars Rebels.
Oh my God, yes. And when we're talking about death, I mean, Rip Quill, I still don't know till this day how he is written and how the name is pronounced.
By the way, he was voiced by Nick Nolte.
Nick Nolte, exactly. Yeah. So talking about epic death, excuse me, Werner Herzog, he's gone. I loved him in here. And he was still, his little speech about how the Empire makes, I think I said it many times here on the stream, because bad isn't always bad, good isn't always good. It depends on where you're from and what you're doing at the moment. And I really loved his little speech about how the Empire made everything more peaceful, less violent. I mean, depends. But it was a really cool speech. And you could see he really believed that. And there are people out there who believe that. Again, I love the Throne novels, and there are many people who fought for the Empire for a greater good, to keep other races out, to, it was not only fighting against the rebels. And I love that he brought that in there because it's from a certain point of view, and he had a complete different one than obviously we had, but still, it's valid. Some valid points he made.
Yeah, it's and like we're so lucky. Like we're like just so lucky that we have people behind the show. And I'm not trying to trash Rise of Skywalker or anything like that, but I'm just saying The Mandalorian, like some people felt like some of the episodes were underwhelming. And I like they were always building towards this point. And they did such a great job. We like Dave Filoni, especially, who has been attached to Star Wars Rebels, and me and you both love that series. I'm actually just on the final season now, just starting the final season. So I'm just discovering all of the awesomeness of Star Wars Rebels on Disney Plus, nonetheless. But yeah, I just think that they even though specific characters had really short roles, like maybe just like one episode, we didn't see that much of Werner Herzog, but he definitely made an impact on kind of like what the Imperialists were like and the remnants of the Empire, like what they might be up to. Yeah, we never got to see his buddy. We never got to see his buddy from Camino again. So we'll get to see him maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Because also Quill, do you remember Quill was talking in 7? He was talking about he also worked somewhere, clone, blah, blah. I didn't really get that. I didn't get it. I just watched it once. I didn't take notes. But he said he was working somewhere close to these clone factories or whatever. He kind of said, so it will be back. Like we will learn more about that because Quill apparently was working in that field.
This is some sort of labor work, and it wasn't clarified exactly to what that was.
No, but I think he said like some genetic engineering or something like that. He said he was working in genetic engineering. This is because he said Baby Yoda is not a clone. I think Baby Yoda is not a clone. He looks way too ugly and he grows way too slow. And we know clones grow really slow, fast. And obviously, you know, why would they clone somebody like Baby Yoda, like look-wise? And so he kind of confirmed, this is what I understood, that Baby Yoda is not a clone.
So that'll be really interesting. I mean, and I think the thing too is that at the end of the episode, when we get the, you know, like, hey, like I'm gonna go when we have the discussion between the Mandalorian armor, the leader of the Mandalorians, and Din Djarin, who people are discussing in the chat. We got this was revealed before the season. Pedro Pascal did reveal the name before the season, but for those of you who didn't know, his name was revealed in this episode with Moff Gideon. Speaking it out. But yeah, I think it was really interesting that we kind of got the confirmation that they're going to, I mean, that's what the Mandalorian and Yoda are going to go do. They're going to go seek out, you know, whatever's left of the civilization of Yoda's people, their species. And I think it would be kind of interesting. And I kind of think I know where this is going because in the end, me and you discussed this. I think the very final scene of the series, and I could be wrong, is going to be the Mandalorian retiring on Sorgon with the Widow. I think that's going to happen. And I'm not sure if Baby Yoda will be with him, but that could be seen as the new home. You know what I mean? For Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian, who's acting as the pseudo parent now, because we saw what happened with the flashback. And on you know, he wasn't originally from Mandalore. He was from a different creed, so he got adopted into the Mandalorian culture. So I think that's really interesting. And of course, Baby Yoda's a foundling, which is super cool. Yeah. I can't see him suit up in jetpack armor or anything like that. With Beskar steel armor, but imagine Baby Yoda with the jetpack. I cannot. It's simply too overwhelming for me. But I think that it's super awesome that they're kind of. And it's only season 1, right? We don't know how many seasons of the show is greenlit, but like the fact that they're just opening up the universe for us, and like, okay, we're leaving open all these possibilities of what we can explore in future seasons.
I really think that the Force aspect will come in more now. I think, obviously still the Mandalorian culture and everything like that, which is very technical and less Force, or like no Force at all. They're not interested in the Force. They're interested in the power of their engineering and weapons and mechanics. This is like the complete opposite to the Force. But I think we'll learn more about the Force aspect in the second one, because he's trying to find what the Smith was talking about, like his race and his people. And
well, they talked about the history like eons
Jedi.
ago. That we battled with the Jedi. So I mean, that's something that obviously that they can pull that thread on. And if they're going to include something like Baby Yoda, and like, listen, Baby Yoda saved them in many situations. Okay, like we're talking about how overpowered Baby Yoda is, but it's a child, so it still needs protection. So I think that what we're going to see is we're going to see them run into trouble for sure. There's no way that there's going to be some like nice peaceful end for whatever they're trying to go search out for Baby Yoda. They're going to run into something, but I think that just overall it was really cool that like there was a lot of that in this episode. There was a lot of that opening up of like, hey, this is kind of what happened in history. We had the flashback. We learned more about obviously the Mandalorian's tragic past, and then of course just kind of these threads that are going to open up for season 2. I do want to address the chat because we got lots of awesome people here. We haven't done any shout outs yet. We have Anna Iglesias, John Webster, what's going on? Douglas Dubois. We have a Dire Setback Band, my friend Matthew Quinn here from Sault Ste. Marie in the cold and wintry north. Bratislava, Wesley. Mons is in the chat. Carrie Harrison, Danny McKay. We have Frozen Whirlpool, Katrin, what's going on? Nicola was in there earlier, I think. And I saw Gina. Maura Lee couldn't be here today, but she says hello to everyone. So, yeah, there's a lot of really awesome comments in chat. And one thing that I wanted to highlight, and I want to talk about you with this, Helen, is John Webster says, I do think the show was stronger when the episodes were longer and we got to spend more time with its characters. I hope they're more ambitious in the storytelling in season 2 of The Mandalorian. I thought this was the best episode. It was like 48 minutes, 3 minutes of recap. So we got like your average television show with commercials from your like a network or something. Not your average streaming service like with The Witcher, which was like an hour long, or Thrones like 53 to 55 minutes. So I really thought that some of the episodes were a little bit too short, but I did enjoy the Monster of the Week type of feel to it because they did add a lot of, like nice little Easter eggs that me and you and like super hardcore Star Wars fans enjoy.
Yeah. And if you talk about the Easter eggs, let's talk about the epic Death Troopers. And we saw the Death Troopers, I think first in Rogue One, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, I think they're because I recently saw it with Gemma anyway. And the Death Troopers, epic. Look at their uniform and everything. I loved it. And then the TIE Fighter from Moff Gideon, that looked so cool when he was flying in. And I'm so happy that we have like a real baddie now. And he was introduced in 7, and I knew, you could feel, yes, Werner Herzog and the guild leader, I always forget his name, that they are obviously not good people. Other one now has
Moff Gideon.
Not Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon is the real baddie.
The client?
The client, yeah, sorry. The client, Werner Herzog, and the guild leader, whatever his name is.
Grief Karga.
Grief Karga, exactly. And now the real baddie comes in. Unfortunately, in this 2 last episodes, but still, we had all this build up, and I love that. And he will stay. The client is dead now. Grief had his redemption arc and moment. He might turn again, who knows? But Moff Gideon is a real Star Wars baddie.
Well, Moff Gideon is still on Navarro. Like, who's saying he's gonna leave? Like, his ship is done for. We saw him get out of the ship with, let's just get it out there, with the Darksaber. Holy friggin' crap.
Well, who holds the Darksaber kind of is the boss of the Mandalorian. So what is happening there?
Wow, that's a big reveal. I thought that we might see it in like a future season or something, but at the end of season 1 with Moff Gideon, I knew that I mean, Giancarlo Esposito is such a fantastic actor. He's been in obviously Breaking Bad, for those of you that like Breaking Bad, and Better Call Saul, but he's just fantastic in any project he's in. And you spoke about like the real antagonist. When he was speaking, you can see how intelligent he was. Like, he was like calculating, like he was like 10 steps ahead of everything. Like, he was incredibly patient, even though his soldiers were dying. He was killing his own guys. He was like, he had this like really like Shakespearean rhetoric to him. He was like really like just, I don't know, he was epic. And I think that the part of the reason why they saved him until the end of the season was I mean the Darksaber. I mean, like, that's huge. And if they are going to go this way, then we're going to have some sort of, because the blacksmith said some of the Mandalorians survived, which means if Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian are out there, who's to say he's not going to fight Mandalorians like a mini Mandalorian civil war? Because if he has the Darksaber, he's kind of like a king. He's essentially kind of like a king.
Yeah. Well, only the one, but then you have to fight to keep the Darksaber. There can be anyone who can come and be like, "Hey, I'm going to fight you. I want the Darksaber," because he's not Mandalore the ultimate, or who had it first. But yeah, no, it was such a cool and perfect build up to that character to come in, and what I loved. First of all, his uniform is epic, and I love that. I'm a sucker for uniforms, and that was really good. And I really liked that he wasn't just, standing there. He also shot the Mando in the right moment, and he did some digging, so he knows stuff, right? He was the one telling us some information. He was telling us the name and whatnot. He knew about Cara Dune, so he knows a lot of stuff. And I think through him, we will learn a lot what went down on Mandalore and what went down with the Empire, because you're not a Moff for nothing. Moff, highest thing. It's even above
it's like if Emperor Palpatine was Hitler, Moff Gideon is like an SS.
Thing again. Yeah.
It's like an SS essentially. He's like, you know what I mean? Like a really bad dude. And we talked about possibly the rise of the First Order, him being a big part of that, because a lot of his interviews before the season, he kept on saying order, order. He likes order, order, and he kept on repeating that. And I'm like, okay, like he's going to have some sort of big footing in the rise of the First Order. But holy geez, he's got the Darksaber. That's pretty epic.
Yeah. And what I love, what he told us, is that Cara is from Alderaan. Oh my God, I mean, she must really hate the Empire then, because we know what happened to Alderaan. So she was from Alderaan, which cool.
Yeah, like which met a very, very grim fate. One thing too that was also very interesting is that both Moff Gideon and the Mandalorian knew who each other were. He's like, no, I recognize who that is. That's Moff Gideon. Like he was supposed to be executed for war crimes. So what happened there? Like, how did he escape? Like, what happened? Did someone release him? Like, all that sort of stuff. I think that one thing that will happen next season, if they're at least making him he's going to be an antagonist at least for one more season.
Yeah,
we're going to get maybe some sort of flashback like we did with the Mandalorian, and kind of into Moff Gideon's past, and kind of find out how and when he got to where he is. So I think that's kind of important too, and that's one thing that I think they're going to be liberal with. I think, who knows if we get 8 episodes. Hopefully we'll get more, or we'll get longer episodes. This is the first season. They're kind of just testing things out too, and they will listen to feedback. But that's something that certainly could be explored over the next season.
Yeah, and the thing is, now we know. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
For the people who haven't seen episode 9. But I think literally, everybody knows Palpatine is back. Come on. He was in the trailer. So yeah, Palpatine is back. And that's many, many years later, but still he survived. And as Mandalorian is literally just a few years after Return of the Jedi, it's very interesting. Does the Emperor and, you know, his contingency plan kind of play in this? Like, I mean, he had this big ass army in the movie, right? In Rise of Skywalker, the ships
Huge,
and
absolutely enormous.
everything. So he must have, you know, so maybe is there a tie to that? Is there, it doesn't have to be in the Mandalorian, but maybe, you know, like hearing of him through Morphs, because there must be more people like Moff Gideon out there. Again, I love Star Wars Aftermath, and that's basically the book explaining the reminiscent of the Empire, what happened after the Battle of Endor, and all this could be in the Mandalorian now that we know the Emperor is back. So,
well, one thing that we talked about is, you know, the genetic extraction that they tried to have with Baby Yoda earlier in the season. Like, what was that for? Was that because we saw what happened with the Emperor in the Rise of Skywalker, and he was essentially trying to get the essence of both Ben Solo and Rey. So, I mean, that's something that certainly, I mean, if we're only 5 years after Return of the Jedi, Emperor Palpatine is still recovering. He might be much, much weaker. Or maybe, you know, maybe he's stronger. I don't know, but maybe he's much, much weaker than what we saw. Like, he's just holding on at the point.
Yeah, but he has people that work for him like all the time, you know, and who stayed loyal to him. So there must be, you know, then there must be something in it, and people must. I think they maybe not in 2, maybe in 3 or whatever, but might mention him.
Well, there was a lot of things that, I mean, you can't just explain everything in a 2-hour, 15-minute movie like Star Wars.
No.
I mean, we talked about how we thought Rise of Skywalker could have benefited from an extra 20 minutes, you know, with a little bit more Snoke, Emperor Palpatine, whatever, kind of just illuminating some of the stuff that happened with Kylo and how he got turned and all of that. But, you know, maybe this is the vehicle of how they start to do some of this stuff, because they said they're not going to go there with other movies, but maybe there's some, like, there's a little bit of drip of content within The Mandalorian, these kind of little snippets that give a little bit more context to some of the bigger things that happen in some of these movies. And I think, yeah, I mean, if you're going to include something like Baby Yoda, a Force user, and, you know, some people know about it, but obviously it's making such a big impact, then I think it's something that you obviously got to expand on. And that's something that's going to happen in season 2. We're going to find out whether the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda find a path and make it to where, you know, Yoda's species is from. Obviously there's going to, I mean, Moff Gideon's still around, and there's, you know, who knows, like maybe the bounty is raised to double the price. Like we don't know. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. He's still on Navarro. Grief Karga is still there. So Moff Gideon for sure is going to be causing some problems, and he's not going to give up on Baby Yoda. That's for sure.
But do we think is Moff sensitive because holding the Darksaber doesn't mean you're a Jedi? It's not. Yes, it kind of, you know, because the first one, Mandalore the Ultimate, was a Jedi in the end, but it doesn't mean per se because Bo-Katan had it. Sabine, many people hold the Darksaber and were not Jedi. I mean, Sabine was trained in some Jedi fighting skills, but just because it's kind of not a normal saber, right? It's a lightsaber in the end, and that's weird. That I don't. Do you think he is? Is he force sensitive? Is that why he wants Baby Yoda?
I'm gonna say no.
Yeah,
because he's searching out for Baby Yoda, and Baby Yoda is like, it's like Daenerys with dragons. Daenerys was the only one person that had dragons in Game of Thrones. You know what I mean? And it was this incredibly rare, powerful thing that was a game changer. And I think that if they just make Moff Gideon force sensitive, then it's like that diminishes what Baby Yoda has. And I think there's a very specific reason why they're including Baby Yoda. And I think there's going to be some more twists as to why they're doing it. So I don't think that Moff Gideon is force sensitive. I do, however, think that he's going to tie in to a lot of what's happened on Mandalore. He's older. He's a bit older. So he could have had a role to play on some of the things that happen on Mandalore. You know what I mean? He obviously knows the name of Din Djarin. He could have been hunting Mandalorians down, something like that. You know what I mean? And I think that they're going to meet again. The Mandalorian and Moff Gideon are going to meet again. And for sure, he's going to say something that's going to piss the Mandalorian off, like, oh, your parents are dead. Like he's going to know something specific about the Mandalorian and kind of, push his button and be like, okay. So I think there's like him having the Darksaber is like giving him the Force and the Darksaber would make him like, you know what I mean? I just don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah. And all the people we know in Rebels, they don't have, they are not Force sensitive. So they just hold the saber.
And I think one thing too, like part of what makes the Mandalorian so great is the scope of it is still Star Wars. Like it's still Star Wars universe. It's still huge, but they've also kept it grounded. So they're not going to try to make anyone like a Luke Skywalker, like Baby Yoda is going to be that only character. You know what I mean? I think that to make Moff Gideon like a Kylo Ren type power would just be, I just think it would be a mistake.
Yeah, no.
But it would be cool to see though. It would be badass if they do make him that power, like give him make him Force sensitive. So Darth Maul, there's people that are saying Darth Maul in the chat. Love that. If he took the Darksaber, John Webster again, if he took the Darksaber from Bo-Katan, maybe we can get a Katie Sackhoff in a flashback. Love that. I love Katie Sackhoff. Douglas Dubois says, if the person who had the Darksaber last in Rebels, no spoilers, has died on screen, I'll be gutted. I'd love to see the voice actor for that character come back and play them in live action. And people were saying this too, like they never thought they would see the Darksaber in a live action Star Wars.
Yeah, that's really cool. Good.
Yeah.
So we covered that. I had something before I wanted to talk about the flashback, right? Because you were talking about that earlier. So the flashback, because we were wondering, what we knew from the beginning, obviously something his parents put him in that thingy, so he survived. Parents died.
The bunker,
the bunker, and what saved him in the end. So I said it's a Mandalorian, and many people said it's a Jedi, blah blah. So it was a Mandalorian, and it was so cool. I mean, it looked a bit like Boba Fett. Can't be Boba Fett because also all the other guys looked like Boba Fett. There were more. There wasn't just one. So apparently the Mandalorians came on that planet. Do you remember the name of the planet? I don't really remember that. Where he's from, where Din is from. And the Mandalorians came just like in episode 3 and fought the Empire, which is really cool.
Well, remember the Mandalorians had went to the moon, right? And the moon had its own name. So I believe the because they had split, right, from Mandalore. So I think he was on Mandalore because of the Great Purge. So I think that because they were part of the religious sect that was still there on Mandalore. So I think he was still on Mandalore. But because the Mandalorians went to the moon, I can't remember the name of the moon.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go Google search it right now.
Yeah. Don't worry. It's not important. But I like that. that it was a Mandalorian.
Concordia. Concordia is the moon.
Yeah. And then we learn from Cara, when she says, not everybody was born on Mandalore, and Mandalorian is a way of living. This is the way. And it makes sense, right?
Yeah, it's so interesting too, because he kept on saying that to Cara, like, this is the way, just leave me. You know what I mean? She wouldn't do it, and then we get the funny joke interjection from IG 11. He's like, no, I'm going to save you. So but that really is important, because he wasn't willing to take off his helmet, and it still happened. So I think it wasn't in front of, he did take his helmet off in front of the kids on Sorgan, but that didn't really count. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting that, and I'm sure his helmet's going to come off again. I mean, if it's coming off once, it's coming off again.
At least in the last, or maybe in the last episode when he goes back to Doe, and then she takes his helmet off, and then they were happily ever after, or whatever. No, just kidding. But I said 10 out of 10. I really loved 8 and 7. I loved 7 as well. 8 was just epic with the revelation of the Darksaber and everything. But what I didn't like, there were two things I didn't like. Okay, so I didn't get the. I mean, that was funny when Moff Gideon said, okay, you have till sundown, because again, this was just like a typical Western situation, right? They are in the pub or wherever in that saloon, called saloon, right? They were in the saloon, and all the military and the whatever people were outside. They were stuck in the saloon and had to shoot their way out or whatever. It was a nice reference maybe to the Western, like you have to sundown. But what I didn't like, that he literally sent in one guy, then another guy, and that he could have stormed that thing like 10 years ago. I'm kidding now, but you know what I mean, right? And that was a bit okay, I get why, but that was a bit shitty done. And then what I also didn't like, because then he barely, like a second later, after getting that spray from IG-11, he walks again, but 10 seconds earlier he was like, I'm going to die, leave me behind. He says that like 10 times. That was also, yeah, say it once, cut the rest. Those were literally the only two negative things I can even think of, but that was like, why?
Well, one of the really interesting things that we haven't talked about yet. Oh, we got before we get into that, we got a donation in the chat. Thomas Pappas, what's going on, my man? He's actually helping me with some Witcher research on videos and stuff like that, which is going to debut in our fourth review tomorrow. So that's really cool. Thomas is part of the Azora Hype team. So in the chat, everyone show him some love. Thanks for that donation. The $10 US, which is like 1,000 Canadian. One of the things that we didn't talk about, Helen, was the Signet, right? The Signet.
Oh, yeah.
And when the Mandalorian rescued him, some people are saying it's the Death Watch from the chat, but the Mandalorian got his own Signet. So that's very, very significant. And earlier in one of our other podcasts, we obviously discussed the Mudhorn. He got turned down for that. We thought he was originally going to get something much greater, right? And this is really interesting. What did you think of his Signet?
Yeah, cool. What was it? I didn't get it.
Well, it has, and it's really interesting because it has to do with two, right? It looks like a two for him and Baby Yoda, but also he got saved by a Mandalorian. So I think that's really interesting, right? The fact that he now has a symbol attributed to him, but Baby Yoda was playing with the symbol that is attributed to Boba Fett, and it's right above where the blacksmith makes all the best scar steel. So it's really interesting that we got a little bit more insight into that. The mythosaur was something that I thought that he was going to take on as his signet. I thought we might see some like mythosaur symbolism, like a fight or something like that. But it was really interesting to see that he took on something different.
Yeah, I thought she's finally giving him the Mudhorn, but because she was asking, oh, is it that enemy that helped you with the Mudhorn? I was like, no, he's getting the Mudhorn, but no, he wasn't. Yeah, I didn't really get, but I just watched it once, and I have to watch it again and look at the signet.
It's cool because we learn a little bit more about his training from the blacksmith too. We get the jetpack, which was
my god, finally
the Rising Phoenix, the name that it's and it goes with the title of the episode too, Redemption, the Rising Phoenix. And I thought it was really badass that he got to take on the TIE fighter with Moff Gideon while he's in the jetpack. So and for those just to clarify, he's a clan of two. That's what his signet is of now, because he now is taking care of a foundling, and he was taken care of by a Mandalorian earlier. But I thought it was really awesome that he got his jetpack in this episode.
Yeah. And again, let me say 3 things I didn't like, because she said it will be hard in the beginning because you need to learn how to use it, blah, blah. And then he put him back to him, and he went for Moff Gideon in the TIE fighter. Yeah, okay. I mean, you could see he couldn't fully control it, but I mean.
So one thing that's really interesting too, because he rejected the signet of the Mudhorn in the clan of two. It's a symbol for two, but it also has the big horn of a Mudhorn. So he did get rewarded in a way because both him and Baby Yoda did take care of the Mudhorn. So he
look, okay, yeah.
So that's why it's the clan of two. Really interesting. It has the symbol of the Mudhorn, but it also has Baby Yoda symbolism as well. So really, really cool. How it still ended up coming back to him in the way, anyways. And she felt it was necessary that he got his signet just in case she ended up dying, which she didn't. She took care of all those stormtroopers.
Oh my god, epic! Yeah,
with just a hammer and like some sort of vice grip.
And I just let in the chat, Lovich, sorry if I butcher your name, just like Mandalorians are a culture, not a race, Jedi are a culture, not a race. So Mando isn't returning Baby Yoda to Yoda Fork, he's returning them to Luke, the only Jedi available at the time. I would love that, and you're so right. And I think, I really love this thought. It's not about race, it's not where you are. And I think even episode 9 is telling us this with the family names, right? Like, it's not the family you're born in, it's what you make out of your life, right? And it's a very similar message for me, and I really like that.
Well, I mean, that's been the message really throughout a lot of the season. I look at the Mandalorian; he's the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Despite the strict code of the Mandalorian, he goes back to the very first event, which ended up, which ultimately resulted him being part of their creed, which was him being saved by a Mandalorian. So it's history repeating itself, and this is classic storytelling trope for stuff with great mythology like Star Wars. Obviously the hero's journey, a big part of that, but I think that is something that I absolutely love too, Helen. And I thought that was a great part of the storytelling, because like we had so much of these little side quest episodes, right? But it was character building too, and it really strengthened the bond between Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian, because he was like reluctant at first. He was like, oh, okay, like, you're just kind of like a means to an end for me. But then it was like, I really can't do this. I experienced the same thing that you're experiencing. And it's really like teaching. It's not only for the Mandalorian, but for the audience. We're learning a lesson. And I think that's a really great way to tell that story.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's really so many things that we could talk about. Like, I think that we spoke about probably our favorite stuff so far. IG-11, obviously the Mandalorian culture, mythology stuff. I think that's something that they really got to continue to do, and I think they will. I think a lot of people, that's the stuff that they've been most interested by, right? Because if you're a Star Wars nerd, or like people are talking about The Witcher in the chat, that's kind of the stuff that's really intriguing, right? You're learning more about the universe, whether it's Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Star Wars, The Witcher. That's the kind of stuff that pulls you in more deeply into learning about a specific character or their culture or whatever. So they've really opened that up, and even though like a lot of the episodes were short, there was a little bit of that in every episode, and I really like that.
Yep.
We're in great hands with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, so I think, what should we do, Helen? Is there like any other subjects that you really wanted to focus on, or should we open it up some questions in the chat?
Yeah, let's do that. Just last thing, because I really, I love flashbacks. I love nods to other things. I love the lava river scene because, one of my top 2 after I'm your father, Luke, maybe moment, is the fight of Obi and Anakin on Mustafar. And that gave me Mustafar vibes, with Lava River. That was so cool. So for me,
it's funny because he didn't have the high ground, yet he exploded and killed everybody that had the high ground. Another thing that we joked about before the live stream today was "You shall not pass," and Baby Yoda doing his best Gandalf impression. It was so cool just to see him just like, propel the flame like that.
And Baby Yoda, I really like that we explore more and more force powers of him, because he can do the force choke as well. I mean, a lot of Jedi can do that, but you saw him force choking Cara Dune because he didn't really understand what was going on. That was just a game.
You're hurting Daddy Mando.
Yeah. And that was cool. So we learn a lot, in every Star Wars we learn more force powers, new force powers, and that I really like and enjoy.
Yeah, it was, and I think too, like we said, we didn't get, there's a lot of characters who just kind of had like one-off appearances, but the ones that we did get to know more, like Quill was my personal favorite. But it's nice to know that we're gonna have, the appearance of Cara Dune in the future and these other characters, and just we are gonna have some more of those side quest mission episodes again for sure. That where we'll have a chance to explore more of Cara Dune's shock trooper backstory and stuff like that. But yeah, I really enjoyed the kind of the interactions and where they're going with it, and they really have unlimited room to kind of set up where they want to go with it. They really left it open ended. So. So here's a great question, Helen, from Douglas Dubois. Which directors would you like to see return for season 2, or which other directors would you like to see brought in? Well, I definitely like to see Deborah Chow back for sure, but she's doing
But I don't. Yeah, exactly. So I don't really know. And they start filming, and you're busy as a director before as well a bit with the casting and with everything. I mean, there's obviously a casting director still. So I'm completely involved in Obi-Wan in this one. My favorite Jedi ever. Maybe one episode. I don't know when they are filming The Mandalorian. I think they're filming pretty soon, right? So it might be parallel.
Yeah, I know The Witcher is filming February 17th is when they start filming season 2. I'm not exactly sure for The Mandalorian, but they do plan for another winter release next year to have season 2 out. So that's going to be something that's big. Dave Filoni is obviously, he's tied at the hip with Jon Favreau for this. So I'm just a huge fan of his, just from Star Wars Rebel and just in general, just the work that he's done in Star Wars. So excited to see him back. I mean, Taika Waititi, if he wants to continue to do episodes, he was fantastic. Anything, I mean, me and you both love Thor Ragnarok, and he's doing he's doing Love and Thunder, which is going to be fantastic for Thor. So I think anything that Taika Waititi does, I'm sure they will really have anybody chomping at the bit. I really thought they all did a great job. Like Rick Famuyiwa. I mean, they like all the episodes were good. There wasn't really one that I disliked. So I think that any of them would be great. And Bryce Dallas Howard, she could be brought back for sure. She did a great job with the ATST episode when they're training the villagers, kind of like the Magnificent Seven. The nod to all the old Kurosawa films, like that one was great on Sorgan. So any of them to be brought back, but I mean, for sure, I would love to see Taika Waititi back. I thought episode 8 was the best one of the season.
Yeah, maybe they can throw in some Game of Thrones directors. They're not all busy at the moment. So let's see.
Well, the one thing I think that we have to look at is, if you're looking at directors like who are friends with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, like they might bring some Marvel people in. Jon Favreau is, I mean, he was just in Spider-Man, the most recent Spider-Man Far From Home. Like he's dating Peter Parker's mom. You know what I mean? He's Iron Man's best friend. So I think that there might be some surprises. I think they might bring some Marvel people in, which would be really cool. I mean, Taika Waititi is Marvel, so I think that we could see kind of some more of that.
Yeah, let's see. But then again, there'll be lots of Marvel series on Disney Plus as well. So a lot of good directors or new and rising stars will be discovered, because I think Marvel likes to take more risks with people who haven't directed before. And Star Wars, I think they rather go with the devil they know. And yeah, let's see. I'm I'm not a big fan of different, because I wasn't a big fan of the Ryan Johnson J.J. Abrams controversy, because I think that could have been better if it would have been just one person and not two. But here I didn't feel that. I didn't mind. It was a complete different thing each time. But then again, I told that a million times before. Our heart was not set on this is my Leia I grew up with, and I know Leia since 20 years, and look what the F is happening to them here. So, it's very different, because people were not expecting anything here. They just expected a good show, but not like, oh, I would know this person since 25 years. What happened here? So it was easier, and yeah, so let's see.
Oh, very cool. Carl Weathers, who plays Grief Karga, is supposedly directing 2 episodes.
Cool.
In season 2 of The Mandalorian. Yeah. I don't know if that's for sure confirmed, but it says that Carl Weathers is going to have some sort of like overseer, like he's been in a ton of different works. So that's something that is on the lookout. And Favreau's he's gonna direct an episode himself. For season 2. So we have a couple of people. Carl Weathers, who plays Grief Karga, and Jon Favreau are both going to each direct 1 episode. So that's as much confirmation as we have so far. Super probably early in the process. They're probably still like writing the season. It's probably production soon, but still.
Yeah. Post-production. Yeah. So Nikolai Jurican is asking, would you love to see series about Darth Maul? The thing is, no. Because if you and Clone Wars and everything, you get a lot of Darth Maul, and still, I don't know how again, but maybe Darth Maul will be in Obi. I'm still betting on that. I know it's difficult. Hey, Tops. And I know it's difficult, but we might get him in Obi. A Darth Maul standalone, maybe with a syndicate, with a Crimson Dawn thingy, but that shouldn't all be about Darth Maul for me. That should be more about the underworld. Yeah, exactly. So that I would like. Just Darth Maul, nah, I have enough of him. Not for me. I'd rather see something about the Hutts or something like that.
I think, me and you are both on record saying Obi-Wan is our personal favorite character from the Star Wars universe. So we're both really excited that Deborah Chow is directing that. That's going to be absolutely fantastic. Whether it's 6 episodes, that would be basically a trilogy of movies if you think about it. So whatever they do with that, I think that's going to be great. But I mean, really, they have listen, if you're getting an opportunity to work on something Star Wars, and you're not a super household name, then you're going to be a household name. And if you are a household name, they're going to pick someone that they trust. So I think, regardless with the stories that they do, they are probably going to do more shows. They said maybe they're going to do some more Rogue One stuff for some of those characters. Not for sure yet, but they're definitely going to be expanding their own unique content. They have to compete with stuff on Netflix, who has like tons and tons of originals, and even though they have money, they still have to produce content. So I'm sure that we're going to see more and more of the Star Wars universe on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily know if like Darth Maul would be a thing they would do. I'm just not convinced on that. but who knows? They could. They're yikes. Okay, so no. Relax, Tubbs. You can relax. We got Sunflower Beth in the chat. Andre Gomez. We have a couple people watching on Facebook, so thank you, people who are watching there. Let's go with a couple more questions. I got about 10 more minutes before I gotta take a nap because I've been editing videos and writing like crazy. I'm working on like 4 videos. But yeah, let's go with a few more questions. This has been really fun. Yeah. Overall, what would you give the season? Because like some episodes were, I would give the first season an 8.
Yeah, same. Yeah, same.
So any questions from the chat? Does anybody have questions? We're going to open it up for about 10 minutes from the chat here.
People are talking about Xena. People are talking about... I think Anna Iglesias was saying that. Anna, I love Dark as well. It's so good. Love it. Started with season 2. Sorry, Kyle. Carry on. Yeah, Nikolai. Nikolai has a question.
Why do you think Palpatine returned in Rise of the Skywalker?
You answer first.
Was
there daddy left?
I actually love The Last Jedi, despite a lot of people disliking it. And I actually think it's a superior movie than Rise of Skywalker, but I'm not going to get into that. The thing is that there was a clear communication problem on how things were going to be done. Obviously, there was huge backlash on how stuff was done in The Last Jedi, and obviously with what kind of J.J. Abrams' vision was. J.J. Abrams, I don't want to be too negative, but I think he did play it safe, and I think that at some point, look, Snoke died, and they had to go somewhere with it. And I always did think that there was a chance that, that the Emperor could still be around. He essentially tried to off all the Skywalkers, and there's still a Skywalker around. So I think that that's a big reason why. And if you got to think of the big bad of all of the Star Wars movies, who do you think of? Darth Vader, but he redeemed himself. So it's Emperor Palpatine who is the big bad in the whole series. So I think that that's clear. And while the pacing, there's this pacing problem in Rise of Skywalker, I still think, the final order, that's pretty scary. Do you want to succumb to that? No. All of the Sith within one person, that's pretty scary. So I think that him achieving ultimate power, which he was very close to doing before, would have been a pretty bad thing. So I think that he was a good choice for the final boss.
Yeah.
Despite how it all went down.
Yeah, and the thing is, if he wouldn't have come in and Kylo, then it just can't be Kylo, because you can't introduce a third party. No one ever, or the Yuuzhan Vong, or people like that, who people never heard about. Nobody heard about Snoke before, right? But he was introduced at least in two movies. So a third one, no. So then it would have been Kylo. And if it would have been Kylo, then in the end, Kylo being redeemed would have been weird. I loved, and we talked about that in our last stream, one of my favorite moments was the Jedi Ben Solo, right? When he finally became a Jedi.
It's one of my favorite moments in any Star Wars film, period.
It is.
That's how good it is.
Yes, it is so good. I just saw it yesterday with my dad again. And I literally cried, because you could feel how happy and free he finally was, and that actually this was his destiny. And so we wouldn't have gotten that if Palpatine wouldn't have come in, because then it would just be the bad Kylo Ren. So I liked it for that. And as you said, it kind of rounds up and goes full circle with the prequels, which basically started everything, and Palpatine was behind everything, or Plagueis and Palpatine.
Yeah.
And so that it's okay for me, but you can clearly see that this movie tried to correct things, and Palpatine was not, I don't think JJ planned in 7 Palpatine to come back. So I think that was a bit of the problem of that movie, but I accepted it, and I think lots of people accepted it.
Well, here's the thing that really worked about it. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, Darth Vader's whole arc was diminished. Here's the reason it's not. Ben Solo did the exact thing that Anakin couldn't do with Padme. And he's the person that Ben Solo idolized Darth Vader. That was his idol. Okay. He ended up sacrificing his life and giving his life essentially into Rey's, saving the person that he loved. That was part of Anakin's downfall. The reason he became who he was, Darth Vader. I mean, he was about to have kids with Padme. You know, I mean, he could have had that if he wasn't so badly manipulated by Emperor Palpatine. But so I think that that's part of what makes Ben Solo's redemption so amazing, is because he did some of the things, and yes, even though he did terrible things, did something that his grandfather and his idol couldn't, and that saved the person that he loved the most.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love that one. But I also think, and it's said oftentimes, that there's not just one chosen one. There's a chosen one for each generation. Just like Leia is a hero of our generation, Rey is a hero of a younger generation, and there's not just one chosen one. And history repeats itself. And you know, this world is so old, this universe is so old. There was a Anakin Skywalker before Anakin Skywalker, and so it wasn't for nothing. I don't think that.
No, it's true. Like look at what we had in Game of Thrones, the idea of Azor Ahai, Jon Snow, or Daenerys being this person. Of course, Jon has to make the difficult decision to put the people over power, which is essentially what you have to, I mean, which is essentially the grand, I mean, and the grand crux of things is like, okay, like this, and the grand crux of most villains is like this thing, immortality, right? Like the idea of living forever and keeping that power forever. That's not something that is sustainable, right? You know what I mean? Through generations. So I think that that's something that obviously that Palpatine was trying to achieve and had to be stopped. And I think that it obviously worked. Regardless of how you feel about which character killed him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that we could go on about this forever, but this isn't a Rise of Skywalker live stream. We'll take 2 more questions and then we're gonna sign off. Just want to say again, thank you everybody for joining us. If you're here on the stream, thank you. If you're enjoying this video, please feel free to like it. Of course, if you haven't checked out Helen's channel, you can find the link to all of her social media and all that in the description of the video. Helen makes fantastic videos on Lord of the Rings and all that. And of course, you often find her here on the channel mucking about, as Gemma would say, with me talking Star Wars. One thing that you can also do, and I'll let Helen talk about that later before we sign off, she can kind of tell you what she's into. One thing that you can also do is we now have the join button on the channel. And it's a pretty cool accomplishment. I'm very excited about it. You can join the channel for $4.99 a month. It really helps out the channel, and you get all sorts of cool, like, I think there's a baby Yoda emoji. I'm going to spam it right now. But there's all sorts of cool little rewards. There's a Witcher emoji, hype and love emoji. There's all sorts of cool stuff, like little extras you get on the channel. And yeah, it's like $5 a month, bonus content and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you're interested in that, link, it's actually right beside the subscribe button, but also the links in the comment section. So yeah, let's take a couple more questions. Revan was something that was mentioned in Rise of Skywalker. I guess we can talk about that. I mean, all the Sith, all of that. What did you think about that?
Well, he was a Jedi, then who then became a Sith, who then became a Jedi again, who then wasn't sure who he was. I love Revan's story, Revan and Malik's story, and they're connected to the Mandalorians even because they were sent to Mandalore to fight a war that was then on, that was thousands of years ago. Yeah, so a chosen one. Did he bring peace? Nah, I don't think so. It was just a really, really good story.
This is something that might be explored in movies that's being talked about. Keanu Reeves is being rumored.
Oh my God, yeah. He was the chosen one once. He can't be this.
Yeah, he's going to be in The Matrix again, so I don't know. He's in all sorts of different movies. But yeah, then we're getting some Lord of the Rings chat down there. Yeah, just in general, I think there's, they're apparently they're going to make an announcement in January about the future of Star Wars movies, or at least the next. They're not doing a trilogy, I think, so at least they're going to do explore a different part of the universe or whatever. That'd be really interesting. I'd certainly like to see Knights of the Old Republic stuff. I used to play the games.
Oh God, best games ever.
Yeah. RPG, make choose your own adventure type shit like Mass Effect, my favorite. So, and speaking of The Witcher 3, won best game of the decade, and someone has Tubb says he just bought it on PSN for $15. That is a steal. But yeah, let's end it there. We talked about quite a bit. It seems that everybody's pretty content, and it's been really, really fun chatting The Mandalorian. We both really enjoyed it. Like I said, I give it 8 overall this season. It wasn't perfect, but I felt like the final 3 or 4 episodes were really, really strong.
Beth Sunflower Beth has a really cool last question, which has nothing to do with all days.
Yeah.
But it's really cool. Random question. The new year, because I think this is our last stream of the year. So what do you want to achieve or do next year, Carl?
Well, I made 116 videos this year. I'm really proud to say that we got 8.3 million views on the channel for 116 videos. That's pretty awesome. But I definitely want to create way more videos than that. Don't know if Game of Thrones is coming out next year, of course. But yeah, we're at 42,000 subscribers. We're growing a little bit again. It's taking a little bit of time to kind of get back to that. But honestly, I just want to be healthy, knock on wood, continue to do what I'm doing. And just like, I'm going to be covering Westworld, The Expanse, The Witcher. Witcher is going to be a huge thing on the channel. I just hope that we're able to continue growing the community and I'm able to keep on doing this. I don't know if that's kind of a boring answer. But it's not easy to find success on YouTube. Despite how easy some people think making videos is, it really takes quite a bit of hard work. And I'm just honestly, I just hope that people will enjoy my Star Wars and Witcher and all sorts of nerd content that will be on the channel. That's really my wish, that we just continue to grow this community, not just Game of Thrones content, because that's mainly what I focused on for 3 years. And that's
well, I not so much. I was just like a happy-go-lucky person jumping into streams of other people.
Yeah, but more hype, just in different, like building, like, and like, I don't know. It's so interesting because after you start building a community, and it's specifically in one genre, it's really interesting. Yeah. It's a really interesting challenge trying to do that in other communities where you're not well known or anything like that. And I feel like, I played the Witcher games. I love the books. Can you see the books? They're right behind me right here. I love them. But just in general, like, it's something that, I only got into Game of Thrones when I started my channel 3 years ago. I only started with season 5. So I'm starting with The Witcher season 1. So I feel like big things are ahead in the channel, and just, overall, like, really, I just hope overall really positive things happen. Healthy, happy, that's it. 2019 was stressful. It really was,
to say the least.
What about you, Helen?
I love traveling. I just started this new job. I want to be uber successful because it's hard as a woman in this world. I work in the car manufacturing world, and it's not easy to be a girl in this world and to be in a high up position and have people working for you who are older than you and who are 99% men. And they question everything you do. So I want to succeed there and make super cool marketing campaigns. And I want to really start through with my channel because I have time now. And everybody, like the 5 people who watch my videos, know I really love Lord of the Rings and all of Tolkien's works. And I have a super fun podcast, the Fellowship of the Bling, with a good friend of ours, with Carol Brown, and I do lore videos on Lord of the Ring. And I hope in 1.5 years this bloody show will be out, and then I'll do stuff like this with other people or just myself on the Lord of the Rings show. And I'm super excited for that. And then I love traveling. I spend all my money on bags and shoes and traveling. And I want to see a lot of. Tomorrow I'm traveling, going on holiday tomorrow, and I just want to see the world and meet you guys in summer.
I wanna start my singing career. Toss a coin to the
No,
witcher, oh
no,
valley of
no,
plenty,
stop.
oh
No.
land of humanity. Ooh. Toss a coin
And
to
we
the
lost
witcher.
everybody.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was singing it earlier and pissing Helen off, and it's literally been in my head. I listened to it like 1,000 times since Witcher season 1 release. But yeah, to launch my singing career as a bard. That's my
Oh God.
next really big step. I'm kidding, by the way, everyone. So Helen, you can find
Good.
all of Helen's stuff in the description in this video. You can find all of my stuff in the description of this video. Of course, if you're enjoying this, subscribe, like, all that. And yeah, we appreciate you. We hope that all of you have had a happy holidays, whether you're celebrating or not. And Happy New Year's to all of you if I don't see you in a live stream before then. Thanks for joining us, and I will see you all in the next video.
Happy New Year. Bye-bye.
Toss a coin to the witcher, oh valley.